Hi, Angela Rizzo here from VINCUE, Chief Marketing Officer. I'm excited to share with you an interview I just did recently with Walt White from Moneyball Motors in Beebe, Arkansas. Walt uses VinQ's data to run his operation and his independent dealership. So why don't you listen in and hear what Walt has to say?
I've been in this business 46 years, and I've done everything at a new car store. I started out when I was about 12 years old, cleaning up cars for my dad. He had a buy here, pay here lot, as well as quite a wholesale operation. I've done everything at a new car store, from the detail shop, porter, up to general manager. The only thing I haven't done is I was backup F&I, but I wasn't actual F&I and everything. So the only reason I really, it's part VinQ's fault that I'm back open. I'd been off consulting and working with a dealership, a GM dealership, and I kind of got updated a little bit. And with VinQ, I started out with V Auto, which is a competitor of yours, I understand, but I'm a big data guy, thus the term Moneyball, as far as that goes. And it showed me one of the biggest deals that I liked, because most of the dealerships I worked with were smaller dealerships, and how do you compete with the big boys? And there were some tools that came along, with V Auto being one of them, but more importantly, VinQ came along, and it was much more budget friendly, if you would, specific to what I need, and certainly what I needed on the used side. And that is what got me back into an independent dealership that I'm at now. So part of this is y'all's fault, I'm just going to say, you know. And I have a handicapped son, and I needed to get back to town. And because of VinQ and some other items, I felt like an independent person could compete out in the market, and that's why I got back into that.
Well, I love it. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I didn't realize that part of the way that VinQ provides data, the data that we provide, actually helps facilitate you opening your own independent dealership. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. There are two things that I couldn't live with, would not have opened without. One of them is having VinQ, okay, and basically the data that VinQ provides to me. I probably look at, I don't buy that many. I'm a one-horse small dealership. I don't want to lead anybody astray. Of course, because of COVID, my intent was to, I have financing just like a new car store. I have access to that. But my intent was to have 20 to 30 cars in a small town, but be able, because the data VinQ provided to me, where I would know where I was at in the marketplace, to have a retail establishment based on that. Okay. Now, because of COVID, inventory's been a huge issue, of course, for me and everybody else. But that didn't change anything. It's still, every time I look at something, even as an independent dealer, I don't, I'm a little guy across from Walmart in a small town. I've got some of the largest General Motors dealerships or other things that are within 45 minutes of me. I'm in Central Arkansas. I've got to give someone a reason to come see me. And so I don't want to go nose to nose, head to head with those big guys as far as price wise or whatever. So I've got to give them a reason. VinQ's data that it provides to me allows me, when I'm buying a car, to see, am I going to be positioned to attract a buyer? And even on, fluctuating market. So that would be my answer to that.
So you're talking about, I think you primarily use inventory management and market pricing. So I assume you're looking within a certain radius in terms of what cars are actually selling for, and that's helping you compete. Is that?
Absolutely. I use, and this is a friend of mine when I was doing V Auto, I use a 250-mile radius because of COVID and because of the online companies out there that you do have to compete with. I needed to be able to go out further. I used to do the 100 miles. And there's, it really depends on the unit as well. You show me a late model truck, I'll go out farther because people will, on a higher dollar rig, will travel farther than they will on a, what we used to say a $10,000 rig, but there aren't any $10,000 anymore. So, that radius and on I like to know who I'm competing with. And the fun thing about this, like I said, I've been doing this 46 years. Okay, the fun thing is, and just give you a kind of a short story with a great example. I had a couple a little bit older than me. I'm not gonna call them an older couple, but they were a little bit older than me. The gentleman came in, he looked at my vehicle, he test drove it and all that, came back the next day or 2 days later, brought his wife back, they went and drove it and all that, and she was the heavy negotiator, if you will, okay? And she comes in and she starts beating me up on price. And I told her, I said, ma'am, I said, I've got enough, I appreciate that. I said, but I have enough car dealer in me, or old time car dealer, but I'm gonna let you cut me a little bit. But I'm telling you right now, I've got the best vehicle with the best miles at the best price within 500 miles. And they both immediately looked at me and shook their head and said, yes, you do. When you do that, you take pricing out of it. You don't have to buy my car, and I want you to like my car. But as far as that goes, I know where I'm at. So that's fun. That's very
and that's the power that the data gives you, because you're able to see, right?
And I've had that happen more than once, So that has been fun. Yes. That's
great. So how are things going? I mean, you started at the beginning of the pandemic. We're over 2 years into it. How are things going for you and your dealership?
It is my wife, I really promised her I wouldn't do this again. We call it car dealer on crack. Eventually, I literally shop. I go my radius that I shop, and I have certain states that I don't buy from for certain reasons that are just limited. But my radius is 850 miles out. Okay, I look at, and I know that everybody else is fighting this same battle royale. I think if you look at my appraisals, I look at somewhere between 150 and 300 cars in VINCUE, and those are cars that I've said, okay, I want to evaluate this car, not that I've eliminated, that I will do an appraisal on or such to see if I want to in the market to buy that car. Out of that, you just hope what you can get bought, worth the money. Now, that it's been very difficult, and it is a supply chain, just like everybody else's fault. Same thing I'm fighting. So we're happy to be able to be alive. We're happy to stay in business. My specialty on vehicles, or at least my bread and butter, if you will, what I designed this thing were cars that I could give, which are good cars below 100,000 miles, that I could give $8,000 to $10,000, sell that car for $12,000 to $15,000 somewhere, or even a little bit more if I had to give a little bit more, whatever. That was my design. COVID made sure that doesn't exist anymore. So now, still look for the same car, and I just try to stay back. I try to stay back at 15 or 20,000. So that's been somewhat of an adjustment. And just cars are just scarce, and I don't sell anything but good cars. I'd rather not have one as to do that. So that's my battle.
Walt, do you typically buy your cars from the public, or do you buy them? Do you source them online from auction, or what's your process?
I'm a Backlots Cars. I'm a OVE, Manheim, Odessa. I like to buy from franchise dealers. Is my just unless I have a particular unit I'm looking for. That's just my preference. Probably profit margin a little bit there, maybe, but that's 99% of mine comes online. Sure does.
And what made you decide to even look at VINCUE? What was the factor that led you to VINCUE that made you curious about it?
Well, I'm a data guy. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Moneyball, but the movie Moneyball.
The movie.
But we're also my son and I, baseball, like I said, he has some handicaps. He'll be with me forever, but baseball is kind of our connection. And he can give you better stats on 1950 Joe DiMaggio, whatever, Anyhow, but data, the book is even better than the movie, and as far as the value. I went to work for a dealership, and they had V-Auto, and I had a really good, I don't know what you'd call them, a personal manager or whatever from V-Auto. I know I'm mentioning your competition, and he trained me very well in it. And I saw the power of that data from that. A couple of years later, an owner came to me and he said, hey, he also did some consulting work with other dealerships. And he said, they've got another product, and it is much more budget friendly. V-Auto's a good product. VinCue's a great product. It depends on what you're needing. We did not need the expanse, all those things that V-Auto did. This was much more budget friendly, and I went into it and studied this VinCue out. And I said, well, shoot, this does everything we need to do. I'm sure for whatever reason, not knocking either company, but it really suited what we did better. I knew when I went independent that it was definitely on the used car side what I needed and everything. So that's how I got to VinCue.
That's great. I've talked to several customers who talk about, and we love what V-Auto has done. They started this thing, 15, 20 years ago, and we've been able to learn a lot from what they've been able to do. One of our customers said, we've created a better mousetrap.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Right. So, and then another customer said, well, gosh, I plug this thing in and it's like having a money machine at the dealership because of the data. Right. So. Sure.
Well, it's kind of a weird old story. You're probably not interested in it, but years ago, and back in I believe it was 03, 04, I was working at a dealership, and I hired two. The dealership, my sales were growing, but I didn't have enough salespeople. I didn't have enough budget, all this, and I was in a town of colleges. They had several universities, and so I knew that a marketing major, it would look better on their resume, hire them cheap, and they were simply just to be greeters, just to let people know they weren't being ignored. They sent me a young lady. They sent me two, but this one particular one, she and I are still friends today. And we didn't have internet departments then. And, well, we did, but they were not really, as far as that goes. And so we started our own internet department at this dealership, and it was unbelievable how it just took off. Well, then you had your auto traders and your things like that. Well, one of the first things I would do that I learned, if I'm going to list a car on Auto Trader or whichever platform it was, okay, is I went and searched for my own car. I wanted to know, okay, if I search for this car, how many others are out there and what are they priced at? I don't want to throw mine out there and then be way jacked up or whatever. VinCue took care of all that for me. I don't have to do that anymore. And you see it immediately, and you also get not real time. I don't know what the delay is, but you can get some pretty quick results even if you price it in your whatever, you can see where it's changing on you. So that
it's near real time. It's pretty close. Yeah. It updates regularly throughout the day so that you're pretty much up to date. So, what I love about your story is, I love the fact that you're a data guy and that you were using V-Auto and now you're moving on to a new system. And, for a lot of dealers that requires change. Change is tough. You kind of get, you like the processes, you understand it, you've been doing it for years. What was it like for you to make the change?
It was, and I made that change just so you'll know. I'm trying to think. So that would have been, 4 years ago, early on when y'all were started. It really was was pretty simple. Now there were, as with any program, I had to get walked through it a couple of times to interpret where to go to find this, how to set this up, if you will. There's a couple of improvements you've made that matter of fact, I kept recommending, begging for them, but they finally got it in. And one of those is doing my comps. I can compare to different packages, different levels, trim levels, as well as different years, because, certain things. Also, if I'm buying a 20 model, I need to know what 21 models, how do I compare 21 models or 19s as well. And so those things you added, and that was also pretty impressive, the fact that the feedback does get back to the company and you do make changes you're always looking to improve. So that was it. But the change itself, it was a matter of it was within 3 days, 4 days, I'm going to say, you're just up and running and doing your thing,
That's great. I think you kind of hit it on the head. Once you make that commitment to make the change, and you've made that mindset, it really doesn't take that long to get things up and running.
No. Different. It's kind of like getting in one of the funniest deals when you get in a BMW. Okay, I never sold a BMW, and I sell a 750i to these people. I'll never forget, and I've got to deliver it about 50 away, and it's in summertime like now. And I'm telling you, my hands are like melting. It is so hot. Well, BMW only has symbols. It doesn't say heated steering wheel or whatever. Well, it was real similar to that, And so once you figure out what symbol means what, it was really pretty simple and everything.
That's great. That's great.
Done that I really, really like. And that is where I'm able to go into my buying plan and set up what vehicles, what years, the miles, all that I'm looking for. That is, once you did that was tremendous on helping me with being able to set my searches up, if you would. Because that's it. Up 5 to 5:30 every morning. First thing I do is pull this stuff up, and I go to look and see if anything's on there.
Well, I just have a few more questions for you, then I'll let you go. I'm curious to know how many cars you acquire a month and how many you sell a month.
Well, normally I'm running around that 10 mark. I'm very small. That's what I tell everyone. I might not be much up to you. I'm set up for 20 to 30. I've just have not been able to buy that many. Here's my limitations, and anybody that's listening could certainly understand that. I really don't like going over 100,000 miles. I want to be accident free. I don't like going over 20,000 as much as possible. That's just for my market. It's not for everybody else's. It's just for my market. When you eliminate that down with what we've been through COVID, it has been one mean mama.
Yeah, for sure.
But, the other thing, I bought a car last night going down the freeway, which was pretty neat. And it was kind of neat. I already knew because I went on this vehicle and I did my VINCUE, and I knew where I needed to be at and what I could get to. And I'm driving down the freeway and this guy counters me, and I know that works. And I know right where I'm going to be in the market when I get it ready. That's pretty confident. I just wish I could do it 3 times a day at least, So,
right, exactly.
But once you do that, you know where you're at.
Right. Well, and that's the value of the data, right? Is that you know exactly where you need to be. You can pinpoint your cost, you can pinpoint your price, and you're off to the races.
You bet. You bet.
Okay. Well, Walt, I don't know if you have anything else you want to share, but this has really been helpful to me, and I really appreciate your time today.
Well, you're more than welcome anytime. I can tell you that the only other thing I'd like to add, your mobile app is fantastic. It works well, just like being able to look and see what I needed to last night going down the freeway, which probably wasn't the smartest thing in the world, but did it. As far as that. And I will tell you, as far as customer service, I've never had to wait more than an hour on anything, any question, any problem that I had, from the home office to Linwood, everybody. I mean, it happens really fast. So, and I'm a little bitty guy. They don't have to get in a hurry for me. So anyhow, that's all I got.
Thank you so much. Well, we really appreciate your business, and we love our customers. So thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it.